Attention on deck. Welcome to the Warships Podcast with your hosts, Kellord, Kami Samurai, and Vanacera.
Hello and welcome to episode 71 of the Warships Podcast. I'm your host, Kellord, along with Kami and Vanessa as we host Pigeon of War from Wargaming North America. Welcome to the show, Pigeon.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, we're glad to have you as well. So could you give us a little background and kind of tell us how you came to work at Wargaming and kind of how you ended up on ships and kind of what your job entails?
Sure. Wow. I'll give you the quick 3-minute life story then. Out of the military, I went to college for video game programming. Then I finished a 2-year degree in computer science with a focus in video game design and production. Right out of college, I want to say about 8-9 months out of college, I got a job at Wargaming, just entry-level job, and then went up from there to become assistant producers of World of Tanks, and then eventually assistant producer for World of Warships, and the associate producer for World of Warships. And my job entails just like a joke I always it's really hard to explain what a producer in a video game company does because it's a very, I guess, niche sort of job, I suppose, to kind of explain. Like if someone tells you they're a firefighter, you kind of automatically know what they do. Someone says they're a doctor, they're a policeman, different specific trade jobs, welders. Video game producer, the joke I like to tell is I like to drink Red Bull and just tell people what to do while I sit on Facebook. It's actually not my job. That's like a common industry joke of what producers do. What I actually do is I oversee the entire project and make sure all different departments that touch the project are executing tasks on time. It's very common for everyone to just kind of deep dive into whatever their task is and kind of forget what the deadlines are or miss the deadlines or just get kind of apathetic toward the deadlines. So it's my job to make sure everything just gets done on time or how it will look, or to go ahead and, as the way my boss puts it, present the vision of the game on our server in the way that our audience would appreciate it. So if World of Warships, what works for World of Warships in Russia might not work for World of Warships in North America. So it will be my job to make sure the game that is being delivered to you guys is tailored correctly for a North American audience. That's pretty much my job in a nutshell. There's a lot more particulars to it, but then it gets into the weeds and then it gets boring.
Fair enough. I was talking to Trevor and he's like, yeah, I don't really know what Pigeon does either. So that kind of tracks as well.
Yeah. Ongoing joking off is you can just say I do nothing, and that'll be fair.
Well, that seems kind of mean, so I probably won't say that.
I'll give you the option. Go for it.
So you're, shall we say, something of an infamous figure in the lore in regards to Enterprise being included in the game. We've heard stories of you standing up at every meeting ever saying, we need Enterprise until you got it. So why was Enterprise so important to you, and are you happy with the version that ended up in the game?
So it wasn't every meeting. It was every meeting to where that became an important topic. Like, what ships should we add to the game? I'm like, oh, this is a dumb question. USS Enterprise, CV6, that one specifically. And anytime someone says CVN like 6.5, you mean the nuclear one? No, the World War II one, Big E. The reason for that is, even while I was the assistant producer on World of Tanks, it always kind of shocked me that, like, in our pipeline, one of the most renowned ships in all of World War II, one of the ships that made it from, I want to say, a very good portion of the Pacific War all the way to the very end, that fought in so many battles and never was sunk. The only reason it's not here anymore is because no state could afford to upkeep it at the time, and was eventually scrapped, which still makes me sad. The most battle stars of any naval vessel in our country, thus proving that it is a battle-hardened vessel. And it always shocked me, like, why isn't this ship in our game? Now, I'm not like a gigantic carrier fanatic. I'm not a gigantic fanatic of specifically U.S. carriers, because some people have that illusion. It's not true. It was just always important to me, like, why ships are veterans in a way. Like, a ship is a veteran if you talk to anyone at the museum for a ship. So it's always kind of weird to me that this honored veteran was not in our game. And the reasoning why it was not in our game is because I forget what the exact reason was, but I think it was something like, well, it's not generating enough interest. And I was like, that's a lie. I will prove that's a lie. So I made it my mission when I became the assistant producer for World of Warships. I would bring it up in meetings whenever I would get flown to Russia. I would make a big deal about it. I would do specific development requests, like singling it out. I even may or may not have bribed some people in the St. Petersburg office with libations. That's something I've said like liberally from time to time. But eventually it came to the game because I presented a strong enough case. Like, here's the next ships coming out in, I do believe it was released in 2017, 2016. Oh, wow. That's embarrassing. I forgot. No,
It was 2017.
Yeah, it was July 2017. So saw the list of ships. I was like, okay, you know what? That's enough. We should have USS Enterprise for XYZ reason. And I talked to Evian. Some people in the community might know what he is. And Evian can back up how much I like personally bothered him about it, and like talk to our balance team about it, talk to our ship modeling team about it. And eventually it just happened. I don't want to say it was like a super hard fought battle. I don't want to say it was like the hill I died on. That's a little ridiculous. But I will say that I pushed probably the hardest of anyone in the company to have the ship in the game. Now, if you asked before, am I satisfied with how the ship ended up in the game? Absolutely. Greatly satisfied. I think the armor-piercing bombs was that was the icing on the cake of the balancing of the ship, because it completely changed the way that we see USN CVs in the game. There was that whole period of time when we just rebalanced CVs to have the option to have AP bombs after tier 6, I do believe it is. And now people legitimately fear them. And it warms my heart, because I am a fan of the U.S. Navy. It warms my heart to hear people just have this fear in their heart when they see armor-piercing bombers hovering over. They don't know if they're HE bombers. They just assume they're armor-piercing bombers, and they just like obliterate their ship, especially if you're in a German vessel. And I love German battleships. It's my second, if not my favorite line in the game. But I have a fear and respect for those planes now flying overhead, as everyone should. It always just kind of bothered me that no one like takes USN CV seriously. Now I'm glad to see that Enterprise has like led the way into this new meta game. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm satisfied with the ship. I'm glad it's in the game. I'm glad in the presentation way it's in the game. I'm satisfied with its balancing. If it doesn't need to be made stronger, it doesn't need to be made weaker. It's just in this lovely little place of it's just a good ship.
That's awesome. So Pigeon, do you have any other tidbits or hints or something that I could use for my push for USS Washington? Because I've been trying to get that battleship in the game for quite a while. A lot of people that know me. I've been pushing for that. A lot of other people have been pushing for that. Another U.S. warship, a veteran, if you will, that had a pretty important role in World War II and a pretty significant event in World War II, being the only USS battleship to sink another battleship. And yet we still don't have it in the game, despite, just taking the North Carolina model and making some very slight differences to that model. And we could have another U.S. battleship in the game. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what do I need to do to kind of get my crusade going?
So if I would be 100% honest with you, this is the first time I've actually had someone ask for that ship. I legitimately, when I get my list of ships that people want, it's typically Haida. It's typically USS Alaska. This is the first time I've ever heard someone say, hey, how about USS Washington, BB-56? Like, oh, okay. I mean, probably a tier 7 ship, probably rework around that a little bit. Not to say it's a bad idea. Well, sure, why not? I don't care. I think Evian had said once before in the live stream, if we have the option, we'll have every ship ever made in the game. Why not? So I wouldn't say that's not an impossibility. I will say we do have a lot of US battleships like coming to the game and already in the game. So the push to get more of those in the game becomes more and more difficult, because it's not like it's a gap that needs filled. So within 2017, there's Missouri, there's Alabama, and coming up soon, we have, I don't think it's any secret, coming up soon, we have Massachusetts. So we're not starving for U.S. battleships, but not an impossibility. I can throw it on my suggestion list for one of these years. I can't guarantee it's going to be 2018. Who knows what might happen, but why not? Sure. Yeah, you've made a suggestion to me. I've heard you. Yeah, I'll go ahead and put it up there.
Yeah, I always liked the story of Washington engaging Kirishima at night and just basically devastating her in a very small amount of time. I always thought that was one of the coolest stories of, actual battleship on battleship combat that came out of World War II.
There aren't that many battles with battleship on battleship engagement. So yeah, I think those ships are important. The story of a ship sometimes is what draws people more to a ship than the actual ship itself. As an example, there are a lot of people that bought USS Enterprise and never play it because they do not care to play CVs. They just want it in their port.
So speaking of premium carriers as a whole, we now have 4 of them: Kaga, Saipan, Enterprise, and Graf Zeppelin. So what are your thoughts on the inclusion of premium carriers, a class that has such kind of a high skill floor? And do you think there's a correct future path for more premium carriers coming down the line?
Absolutely. So I do hear this a bit, and it's that these ships are very hard to play for a large portion of our audience. I want to say, well, let's throw a number out there. I know the exact number, but for the sake of just NDA, let's just throw a number out there. We'll say 80%. Pretend with me. Say 80% of the server just does not care about playing carriers, no matter the nation. I don't care if it's US. I don't care if it's Germany, Graf Zeppelin. I don't care if it's the IJN, my fault. They just don't want to learn how to play that RTS type of gameplay. That's perfectly fine. That's just not for you. I get it. It's a completely different style of thinking and playing the game. That doesn't mean these people still don't want these ships. Like the people that want to play a premium version of a carrier to have their captains go ahead and gain XP, they still want those ships. And that's a market. And I think reasonably, I've said this like a couple of times in private. I'll go ahead and say it out loud. We as a company would be foolish not to make premium carriers. Does that make sense?
No, I think it totally does. I guess my question is more along the lines of, do you see a way as a producer? You said that you kind of oversee things and make sure that people, that the game is applicable for the people in the NA region. Do you see as a producer a way to move forward with premium carriers that makes it easier for someone to play a carrier, not only just the ones in the line, but to pick up one that's a significant amount of money? And I agree, there's a lot of people out there that got Enterprise because they wanted Enterprise, not because necessarily they want to play it. I completely get that and believe it and have seen evidence of it myself. But I think it's important that people want to play the ships that they buy too.
I 100% agree. So there is the carrier rework, which is coming at some point. I'm not going to give a specific time frame because I don't know. I think when it comes to like rebalancing mechanics of a game, it's just not a good idea anymore just to give like any sort of time frames, because who knows, for business or for design reasons what might happen. It might get delayed for whatever reason. And trust me, the community will never forget if it gets delayed for whatever reason. But for like once a carrier rework happens, then people will be more comfortable playing carriers. But something else we always got to consider with the rework is people have been playing carriers the way we have it right now. And there's been a minor change in the way carriers play. There's been some minor fixes to its gameplay and mechanics back in 2017. It wasn't like super drastic. But do people want to go ahead and see a complete rework? Sure, and then we could do that. But there are people that have been playing it for the past 2 years in the way that we have it now. And it'll be very difficult to explain to those people we've made it, like, in this case, simpler. And you will have to get used to the simpler mechanics. And carriers themselves, much like in real life, have such a very large integral role in the sea combat space that you have to balance these things with a very, very fine tip of a paintbrush when it comes to like balancing it. So there's something
Graf
very.
Zeppelin's a case in point on that. Just how much effort has gone into rebalancing it after it was kind of released too early.
No, completely agree. When you have something that can control that much battle space, my favorite version of Graf Zeppelin, full honesty, is when was streaming it with the triple torpedo bombers and the two kind of weak-ish fighters. Fighters didn't matter to me. They were there just to protect the torpedo bombers, and they could just own half of the map. Like that half of the map. If I wanted AB was mine. That no one else is going to assault AB at all because I will take out
that was overpowered. There was no question about that.
No, completely overpowered. It was fun. It was great. It was lovely. I loved every second of it. Oh my gosh! Even Alabama's with their a fully AA kitted out Alabama. There's nothing you could do with that much hate coming at you. So there is a full rebalanced mind. I'm thinking like, okay, we still have to keep them, powerful in the battle space because carriers are just powerful in the battle space, but easier to play. But not so easy to play that someone that just started at World of Warships can pick it up and all of a sudden, oops, I can control half of the map and there's nothing you can do about it because someone already took out your AA cruisers. What are you going to do? Do you see what I mean? There is a little bit of that.
I've always understood that this was a very delicate topic. I mean, we've got carrier players, people like Farazalith and Femininely who love to play carriers. They want them to be good, and they've found a way to make them good within the current level of mechanics. But there is a yawning gulf between Farazalith and me. And I've played carriers. I know the basics of how carriers work. I can make them work against an opponent that is average or not, or is average or worse. But if I go up against somebody like Farah or Femininely, I'm going to die, and there's not a whole lot that I can do about it.
I suppose I will disagree with you that there's not a whole lot you could do about it. I see where you're coming from, though, because at the end of the day, it still is team dynamic based. Like, you're not the only one facing, we'll say, Femininely at that time in that battle space. There are 11 other teammates on your team that you can rely upon. You can, like, ping the chat and say, all right, this person in this, what's she playing? We'll say it's Hakuryu, and you're in your midway, and you're just got AP bombs, and you're ready to do some damage. Femininely is like loaded up her Hakuryu planes, and she's barreling right at you. She's going to try to carrier strike with you. Okay, like maybe you have to sail around and maybe you have to hug an AA cruiser, or maybe you let an AA cruiser know that, all right, Minotaur, I'm sticking with you. If you have defensive fire, I doubt they have defensive fire. Let's face facts. Or maybe a Des Moines or whatever. Maybe you need to go ahead and just stick around with them and go ahead and do what you can, because it's not just you in there. Like, even when players always ask, like, when I go one-on-one with this ship, what am I supposed to do? You shouldn't be one-on-one against any ship unless you absolutely have to. It is still, at the end of the day, a team-based game. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's true. I don't know how else to really put that. Like, it's not just you on the map.
No, I agree with that. And like I said, carriers are complicated. And I have no personal issue with complication in the game per se. It's just a matter of, it's a delicate balance to get it right so that it appeals to a wide range of people, if that makes sense.
I 100% agree. I still think carriers should still have a skill ceiling because of what they're capable of. I don't know. I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't 100% know what that ceiling is because I'm not on the ground floor of the balance team to help rebalance carriers. I'm not even sure of the process of that right now. Well, like, not the process, the progress of that right now. It's just not something I'm checking into. But I agree with you. It should be made just a little bit easier than it is right now. I'm not 100% sure what the answer is. I read player reports of what the answer might be and what they think. I see some good ideas from time to time, but realistically speaking, I don't think many people in the player base really know what that answer is. And the people that love to play carriers have a general idea, but they're also like so entrenched into what they know of how carriers work. They want what they know works right now in their high level of skill. They're not the beginner players anymore. They don't know what a beginner player, what struggles they have to go through just to learn them. I hope that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. So, we'll let the carriers lie for a little bit. We'll, like you said, we're hopefully getting the carrier rework within some kind of quick order. And we are hoping to have Sub Octavian on to talk about that when that happens down the line sometime. So we do have a couple of rumors that have been flying about, and I understand if you can't address them, but we've heard that there's a possibility of Wargaming moving offices in North America, perhaps to Austin. That's not really clear. And Emeryville is no longer listed on the jobs list on the Wargaming corporate website. Can you tell us anything about the future of Wargaming NA, and if that how that might affect us in ships in the NA region?
Oh, so that's a complex question I can't really talk much about. I don't think I can. But I can say that, what can I say? I'm trying to think of something. Probably the fact that I'm having to think about it is probably more clues than anything. There's no change to ships. There's no change to tanks. There's no change to tanks Blitz or any of the other projects that we're working on. So nothing I can really say to that, I guess, at this time. I guess is the answer I can give. Sorry.
Fair enough. We appreciate you at least being willing to talk a little bit to it. So, but yeah, we appreciate you being with us today, and we've got quite a few topics to talk about today beyond just having you on the show. So we look forward to your opinions on the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Sure, let's do it.
So late last week, we received 2 new test ships, which should be noted are not final and should be considered a work in progress. First up, we have the French battleship Gascogne. Gasconge, it was a design proposal to modify the Richelieu class of battleships to a more conventional layout, with main guns both fore and aft of the superstructure. This puts 1 quad turret in each place. Dunkirk players will not be surprised to learn that the guns of Gasconge are somewhat inaccurate, though their high velocity and quick turret traverse makes them relatively comfortable guns to use, if not necessarily easy to devastate your enemies with. So what have you guys thought about Gasconge so far? And particularly, what do you feel about the fact that Gasconge is going to be the premium ship and Richelieu is going to be the main line ship?
So to your second question, I've heard that asked like a couple times. What do I think? Like one ship is a premium and one ship is a tech tree ship. I guess I don't know how to answer that question. Like, what does that question mean? Help me out here.
So from my perspective, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So you've got Gascogne, Alsace, and France being the tier 8, tier 9, and tier 10, respectively. And they have similar gun layouts with guns fore and aft of the superstructure. Richelieu has all of its guns forward of the superstructure like Dunkirk. So Dunkirk is a premium and Gascogne is a premium, where it would seem to be more appropriate that Richelieu was the premium because it had the out of the not normal, quote unquote, set of gun placement, so that the two ships that have the 8 guns forward of the superstructure in the French ships, Dunkirk and Richelieu, would be the premiums, and then Gascogne, which plays more like the rest of the ships that are around it, be the one that's in the tech tree line.
So to be perfectly honest, that sounds like personal preference to answer your question.
The reason I ask it is because we heard when the German battleships came out that the German battleship line was laid out so that the type of gameplay was consistent throughout the line, which is why we got Gneisenau with its hypothetical, well, not a hypothetical, but it was never completed, refit to twin 15-inch guns from its original 283 millimeter guns, rather than the version that's Scharnhorst, which was the actual version of the ship that is actually a premium. So it just doesn't seem like the French battleships are kind of following the same design plan that was stated for the German battleships.
So you would like Richelieu to be a premium because you feel it's less similar to Dunkirk? Am I hearing this correctly?
What I'm saying is that it is similar to Dunkirk, which is a premium, and it's unlike the tier 6 or the tier 7 and the tier 8, or the tier 7 and the tier 9, the ships that are on either side of it in the line.
The idea is that the gameplay is consistent as you go up from tier to tier, kind of like how the British battleships also, you kind of invented the Monarch to kind of fill that gap, and then you move the Nelson and made it a premium, so that it's kind of the odd duck there. And as you go up the line, your gun consistency and handling of the ship is similar, i.e. like Gneisenau, with its guns, you progress up from Bayern all the way up the gun calibers are consistent, the ship layouts are consistent, and therefore you're not really changing up your gameplay that much as you progress the tiers.
Okay, I kind of see what you're saying. All right. But I guess I'm still. I guess I'm like wondering, like, is this like a true fundamental shift? Is it really that bad?
I don't think it's bad. It's just inconsistent with what we've heard in the past, and so I was curious about it. Like I said, in my mind, I really don't care which one is the premium ship and which one's not the premium ship. I think Gasconge is fun to play. I think Richelieu is going to be even more fun to play. I'm glad that both of them are in the game. I'm just curious if it signals something of a shift of how the design is going to be working with ships, and if the philosophy that we were told previously has been not discarded, but modified.
I mean, no, not necessarily. I mean, realistically speaking, and if I'm being 100% honest, I think you guys are deep diving in way too deep. If I'm being like 100% truthful, there's really not that terribly much of a story I could say like why this ship is there. It's probably more along the lines of, okay, we got to pick these two ships. Which ship will go ahead and fit in here? Well, for X, Y, or Z reason, this ship will go there. And like that was probably the end of the conversation.
Fair enough. So have you gotten a chance to play Gasconge at least? And we can actually talk about the ship itself instead of why she is what she is.
Yeah, absolutely. I've played about like 3 or 4 test battles in it. And
kind of what were your impressions of it so far? It made a pretty strong impression on me in a relatively short amount of time. And I'm curious to see, and I've seen it be pretty polarizing between the people that have been testing it so far.
Honestly speaking, I think it's fine. It doesn't do anything offensive. It doesn't do anything stupendous right now. Obviously, it's still in the testing period, so anything that I say about this ship is most likely going to change. But yeah, it's fine. It's okay. Doesn't do anything great. I love firing HE out of it. I sometimes forget that it's a tier 8. And when I see a Masashi on the field, I'm like, oh, yeah, right. It's going to see that. Ooh, it's going to hurt. Or sometimes when you just see a tier 10, you're like, oh, right. Yeah, that's going to happen. Because the French Battleship armor scheme is not the best, but can't get into too many specifics. Can't say the times that I've played it. It's fine so long as the way I played it is like a second line battleship. I love to play German battleships more along the lines, and lately US battleships. So I'm used to like a different armor layout and different accuracy in my guns. The accuracy and the armor layout in Gasconge is completely different than anything I play. So that's why I only played about maybe about 4 test battles just to get a feel for the ship. I have nothing like super positive or super negative to say about it. I guess I could say. Once again, I 100% acknowledge and realize it's a cop-out answer, but the ship's still being under test in the testing phase. Like it's not even under, I think it's only under partial embargo release, and the ship's still having like quite a bit of time of bouncing to go. There's not a terrible lot I could truly say about it because I'll just date this podcast after like a couple days.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we have, when we try to do, this is our kind of first impression of Gasconge, is that we play some games in it. We just kind of give our general feelings about the ship. And like you said, I think that the kind of, it just kind of is. It's not anything, it's not bad. It's not amazing. It's just kind of in that kind of middle space right now. And I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to balance it going forward. Kami, you've joined us here a little bit. Can you give us your thoughts on Gasconge as a ship and where it kind of has a place?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting ship. The layout of the guns. I mean, the France is, the tier 10 is the same layout. I wouldn't go into a game thinking that you're going to carry the game like you could with another tier 8 battleship. I'll tell you that much with it. But it's unique in the sense of the way it's set up. And, I guess I would say it's a balanced premium, if that makes sense. Kind of like the Roma in the sense of it's not overpowered. And if you play it correctly and you play it the way it's set up, I think you can have an impact on the game. I'm not going to say you're going to be the best in the game or have the highest amount of damage or anything, but you'll be able to at least protect yourself and do your part. But I mean, I personally don't really like the gun layout. You have to, unless you're going to sit there, bow on, and fire one turret the whole time, I'm not entirely sure that's the way you want to do it. It is fast, so you can kind of get around on a flank, but like you said earlier, it's not exactly accurate. So, I don't know if that's going to work for you, but it is its own ship. It's unique, and I mean, I'll probably play it a little bit more just to see if I can get anything out of it, but it's not a ship that I'm going to sit down and play every day, if that makes sense.
No, it does for sure. I've actually found that the AP is kind of sneaky good. It's difficult to land reliable hits with it, but it can penetrate more than I kind of expected it to. Vanessa, did you have a chance to play Gasconge at all?
Yes, I did. And what is this AP you speak of on a battleship? No, I did do a little bit of testing with it, and I thought it was rather comical when I saw speed boost on a French battleship. And yes, it is set up as secondary spec because, when you look at it and all of those secondary guns, it is also comical when they kind of all open up on someone and just the sheer volume of secondary fire going off is rather amusing. Now, that being said, you see tier 10s, and I was trying to sneak in and trying to remember the map, and I was like almost behind an island. I was more or less bow on, just a slight bit of angle, and this Yamato in Montana took like well over half my health, and I was like, yep, I'm still in a tier 8 battleship, and this thing is not good at bowing on. So yeah. Other than that, I actually had kind of decent success, but that was only team success. It wasn't like personal success of actually getting in there and contributing to the team win, not necessarily doing damage. You can really kind of sit off in the back and just kind of spam HE. And with that really, really long range, the accuracy is not that good, but I mean, if you land like one shell, you're probably going to start a fire. So yeah, I'm sure amusement in chat and rage that we'll be inducing with this ship from time to time is probably going to be evident.
Fair enough. So I think that the bottom line is that it needs needs just a little bit of a nudge, and I'm curious to see what it gets from the devs. Something like along the lines of maybe like a 28-second reload, or maybe a little Sigma buff, or maybe longer range secondaries. But I don't think it needs 2 or 3 of those. I think it just needs 1, and it'll be in a good spot. So the second ship in testing is the tribal class destroyer Cossack. There's been some outrage from the community that Cossack has her wartime modification setup of 3 twin 120mm turrets instead of her original 4. Combined with a limited torpedo armament, this makes her a relatively difficult destroyer to play, as she doesn't seem to do anything better than anything else. That said, there's a large group of people, just as Pigeon said, who have been clamoring for HMCS Haida that have got to be happy that progress is being made on the tribal class DD setup. Vanessa, let's start with you since you were our last in the battleship discussion. What have your thoughts been on Cossack as a ship being in the game and the first tribal class destroyer?
Well, I'm very happy to see it because I'm really curious to see how British destroyers are rolled out. And, the more premium British destroyers that we get, we kind of get an idea of what, a potential line is going to be when we get these ships. So I'm extremely excited for it. Testing the Cossack, I was very amused to say the least. I got in, I had really no expectations with it. I didn't even look at this, just grabbed the ship, threw a captain in there, hit battle. And when I was going to set up my rings on the mini map, I saw secondary and I was like, what? And I zoomed in. I was like, how does this have a second? Really? And so, yeah, it's like Kiev. It's got a little secondary battery. So, okay, you've got a secondary on this thing. You've got some decent turrets, but the firing angles are, yeah. So, all right, you have something similar to Gallant, kind of the play style of Gallant, but you only have one torpedo launcher. So, all right, you're like Kidd, you're like Akazuki. Your guns, you can put out a lot of volume of fire, and the smoke is kind of decent, but the torpedoes, you really can't rely on them. And, you're kind of a lone destroyer. So, I was taking a bit of damage. So, yeah, I feel it needs help. I feel some of the things on the ship are a bit comical and amusing, and other things are just sad. But at least we have a tribal, and they're working on it. So maybe, she'll get some help, and then we can see what, Haida will eventually be.
Kami, what about your thoughts on Cossack?
I think it's a piece of poo, to be honest with you. Played a few games in it, not very fun. But I mean, I'm not really a DD person, so it might be fun for people that like that type of stuff. I mean, gunboat wise, it's okay, but the firing arc on the guns are awful. I mean, you have to that B turret. I mean, you can't kite away because of the angle. I mean, it's just I mean, it's not a bad ship, but it's not something that I would sit there and play for fun. I will admit I do like the Gajimata, which I think isn't it kind of the same thing? Isn't it kind of like isn't it close to the same class or?
It's similar, but it's not quite the same thing.
I mean, I like that ship, but the one torpedo launcher really hurts when you have to fight anything that you need to do massive amounts of damage to. I feel like the one torpedo launcher is definitely going to be a downfall of the ship, because a destroyer has to have the ability to kill a bigger ship in the sense of a battleship or something like that. And I don't think this ship can do it. But I guess that could be semantics. I don't know. I mean, people will put up good numbers in it, but again, I feel like it's a balanced ship, and I'm not on the Haida hype or whatever it is, but it's good that it's getting into the game, and it's good that people are going to get to see potentially what a British destroyer line is going to be, and go from there.
Fair enough. How about you, Pigeon? Have you played much with Cossack?
Haven't had the time to touch that ship. I'll actually, now that we're bringing it up, I'll actually give it a little bit of playtime today. I do want to say that we do listen to feedback from our CCs, from our super testers. They're kind of echoing similar feedback, like maybe the ship needs help, and maybe the ship will go ahead and get some rebalanced love later on, as I talk to a couple of key people that were in charge of that. So we'll see. It does also come down to, with these specific guns and these specific torpedoes and the layout of the ship, there's a lot of like shaving. There's a lot of like, messing with numbers that are possible to do with ships just to make it more balanced for like gameplay purposes. You can't, unfortunately, get to the world where you're like, oh yeah, this gun just fires like this far for reasons. That starts to get a little ridiculous. Or like, by the way, there's just like another set of torpedo tubes. Well, this ship never had another set of torpedoes. Gameplay reasons. You can keep doing that, and that's fine. And I'm totally willing and on board with that, because at the end of the day, it is a video game. But there are some, that causes a little bit of community strife. So I do want to see what some rebalance options might be for the ship. I can't guarantee it'll get rebalanced. As someone that, once I was done with Enterprise, I was like, all right, cool. Enterprise is in the game. What other ship do people really want? And Haida was next, and a particular community contributor whose name starts with a little and ends with a white mouse has been nothing but vocal about having HMCS Haida in the game, and she's not the only one. I think I popped up a thread a couple months ago asking what you got, how would the community feel if Haida's in the game, and tell me why. And there's a lot of people that just shared their very vocal love for having a tribal class in the game. So Cossack is the first one. I think Sub-Octavian spilled the beans quite a while ago. Haida is approved, and eventually it is coming to the game. Can't tell you an exact date because it'll probably miss that date. Who knows? I think you'll be pleased when it eventually comes to the game, but obviously Cossack just needs to be looked at a little bit more from what I've been hearing, and I'll go ahead and play it today and give my own personal opinion and submit feedback on it. So I can't tell you right now what it's like from my personal point of view. I can tell you what I've just heard, and what I've heard is, this ship needs looked at.
I think that would be my interpretation of it as well. And again, I'm with Kami. Destroyers are something that are difficult for me, and I think that it's similar in play style to like to some of the more, how do you put it? I think Gajah Mal is actually a good one. There's just some fundamental difference that makes it much more difficult. And it might be the torpedoes that Kami was talking about. So our next ship, Aigle, which is the French destroyer, has been finalized and is ready for release soon, quote unquote. She's always struck me as similar in playstyle to Anshan and Gremyashki, with shorter range torpedoes. The gun traverse and large size in particular are kind of the things that point me towards those ships. That said, the shells feel floaty, sort of like the American shells. Aigle was a difficult ship for me to pin down as well, and I can't ever really say that she took my fancy as a ship to play, despite her guns, which are uncommonly powerful for a destroyer. Kami, Vanessa, Pigeon, can you guys give me a buy or no buy call on Aigle when it comes out?
I mean, that's very biased coming from me, so you don't want my opinion.
Hey, we had Trevor on the show, and he said don't buy something. So I'll take you at your word if you're going to say you're going to try and stay on buy.
Yeah, I would be ultra biased when it comes to, should you give my company money? I wonder what answer I'm going to give.
I kind of like the ship. Am I going to tell someone to spend their money on it? That's hard for me to say, but I liked it. I thought it was kind of fun to play. The big guns were definitely a challenge. But if you like DDs and you want to have a unique DD at the time, I would have to say yes. But it's not going to be for everyone, and there will be people with buyer's remorse. It's like, oh man, I can't make this ship work. The guns are, slow and everything. But I think people will like it. And, if there's some positive reviews by CCs and positive reviews by people that have bought it, I think more and more people will buy it. But I can't really say buy it or not buy it, because that's up to everyone. That's up to everyone how they want to spend their money, right?
I guess would you buy it personally is the question.
Would I buy it? I would personally not buy it because I'm not a DD player. But if I was a DD player and I wanted something unique, yeah, I would buy it.
Well, let's talk to our resident DD player. Vanessa, what are your thoughts?
Well, this quote-unquote destroyer operates more like a light cruiser. So, for me, no, I wouldn't buy it. It is unique, at least at the time that it's going to come out to the game for us. If you are wanting something that is a unique play style, if you are very comfortable with Russian destroyers, which I'm not, I don't really like Russian destroyers. How some of them are legitimate light cruisers, but they take up destroyer badges. So yeah, I'm not, on a personal level, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to say don't buy or don't try this ship. If you are comfortable with Russian destroyers, if you're comfortable with trying something different, if you are fine with, a destroyer that has larger guns, then, try it. You might like it. There are going to be some people who recommend it. I've seen some other CCs recommend it. Me personally, it's just not my play style. So personally, I'm not going to buy it. But I echo Kami's sentiment. Some people are going to make it work. Some people are going to have fun with it. Others might have buyer's remorse because it's not the atypical destroyer that you find 90% of the time in the game.
Pinging off of Vanessa, I think I pronounced that right. Did I butcher that? Go ahead and just let me know.
No, that's actually perfect.
Ha! I did something right. So if you like Russian DDs, this is a nice mix in between because it does have particularly powerful guns to beat up other DDs, and to say a cruiser sneaks around the corner, you can quickly switch to AP and aim in a citadel and be able to do some damage to it. Much like a Gremyashki. If you have like an Omaha sneaking up on a Gremyashki saying, haha, I'm the cruiser class, I know how this rock, paper, scissors match go. No, you've made a mistake. You have made a terrible mistake. That Gremyashki will just switch to AP, and there goes all of your citadel hits. I'm not saying that's going to work 100% of the time. It'll particularly work on like USN cruisers. Like if a Pensacola peeks around the corner and you're in Aigle, well, you can do some serious damage to it probably before it could do damage to you. But once again, I admit I'm speaking from bias. I'm going to tell you, yeah, if you like the ship, go ahead and get it. If you don't like gunboats, because that's what kind of Aigle is leaning towards, maybe consider a different ship. It's really up to you.
Fair enough. I will want to mention one quick thing. This ship does have a phenomenal speed boost, that it gets a 20% boost to speed, making it the fastest destroyer at tier 6. So keep that in mind as well. It makes it an interesting boat, and kind of, if you like that kind of run and gun play style, that button alone can make this ship worthwhile.
What you should say, Pigeon, is if you don't like that, you should buy the Kid.
So Kid has such a unique play style. I just don't recommend it to people unless they have a lot of DD skill under their belt, because a lot of people want to play DDs as like this hit and torpedo boat, and Kid is not a hit and torpedo boat. It's a support. It's a support gunboat that relies on its AA pretty heavily. So it's got just this completely different mindset you have to play this ship in. And it's great for ranked battles. I've used it to get pretty high in ranked, but I can't 100% recommend it to all players. That would be very unfair of me.
I think that almost all the premium DDs come under that heading, though, in one way or another. There's very few of the premium DDs that I would say are, one size fits all. Everybody can make these ships work. So that's just kind of a function of their class more than anything.
That's very true. Yeah, that's very true.
So we do have a couple of quick hits before we close off for the day. World of Warships Blitz has been released for the North America region, and I have downloaded it and I have played it a little bit. It's interesting, and it gives you something to do if you're not at your computer, but doesn't really replace World of Warships for me. I do particularly like the ability to fire the secondary guns, which I think is a really cool feature of Blitz. The ARP and Dragon captains will be able to be dismissed in an upcoming patch per the Supertest server dev blog. And also per the Supertest server dev blog, changes are coming to both the Trap and Tears of Desert maps. So I guess, guys, these 3 items are relatively small items, but what are your thoughts on these kind of minor, I guess we can call them kind of quality of life things?
Is there a lot of hate for Trap? I kind of like that map.
I don't think Trap was changed much less than Tears of the Desert was, which is known in certain circles by the name Tears of the Player Base. Is it not, Kami?
Yeah. Then you put what is it? Epicenter on it, and everyone loves it. It's everybody's favorite. I do like that you can dismiss the Poi captains now. I think that's going to be, when that comes out, you know what I'm going to do. Bye. But I mean, I do like the changes to the maps. Tears of the Desert has always been a map that it always felt like it was too big, if that makes sense to you guys. Those islands surrounded the middle, but then it was like there was a bunch of open water and everybody just kind of set up on their side, and there was never really any incursion into the middle until someone had to, and then it was kind of like whoever blinked first was the team that lost. And I think it's good that they've changed the spawns so that they're a different way. Do I think it's going to fix it? I don't know. And Trap, I didn't really have a problem with the way Trap was, and I think Trap's been changed a few times in the past.
They just made it overall smaller. I think they cut down by like a kilometer or 2 on each side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the original map, I mean, there was some dead space over on the 10 line, and there was some, but I don't think it's going to change the way that map really plays. I mean, teams are still going to go to A, and teams are still going to funnel into C. So I think it's going to, I think it's good. It just makes the action happen a little bit more, I guess. Maybe try to focus a little bit more around the islands at B and less around the, everywhere else.
And gives less space for carriers to run away.
So Pigeon's going to die in his Enterprise in the back.
Wait, carriers? That's dead class.
Dead class. The ability to dismiss captains of the ARP type, good for the people that want it. That's fine for them. I love all the anime content in our game, and if I have it my way, the anime content will only increase by tenfold in the next coming 2 years.
He's a weeb. Who knew?
I have called myself many a times a closet weeb, in that I do watch anime, I do read manga. I'm just not loud about it. Like I don't have like an anime avatar. You'll never know unless you actually like look at my work desk or look at my like library shelf at home, where there's a bunch of like Macross and Gundam figures. So I love the anime content. It's only getting more. It's not going to stop for those anime haters. It's only going to increase. As a matter of fact, If I have it my way, as I said before, tenfold, maybe more.
So along those lines, this most recent part of High School Fleet, you had to opt in on the website to do the content. What were your thoughts? I thought that was really well done, as it let people who wanted to do it, but didn't force it on people that might not want to see it.
I mean, yeah, it's perfectly fine. There are people that capital H, capital A, capital T, capital E hate the anime content. And there's that cute little button that just turns it off. But that's just not enough for some people. They just don't want it in the game. They want nothing to do about it. They don't want to see articles about it. They don't want to see our Facebook updates about it. To some people, it just sickens them, like makes them ill that we quote unquote debased ourselves with anime content. And of course, they have like choice words for people that like anime. And I think those words are just like ridiculous. I'm not going to taint your podcast by repeating what they say because, but for the people that love it, they love it in droves. And I'm happy, glad all day long to appease people that want to go ahead and say, yeah, I like anime and I like the collaborations that you guys are doing. I will gladly click that button. It's actually become, you can go to the NA website. It's actually become one of our most read articles. Like compare one of our articles on like a daily to the High School Fleet article. And there are a lot of people that pop in there, read the article, click the button, and they're happy to go ahead and do the High School Fleet content. So in my opinion, yeah, if you hate it, click the little button right there, bottom right-hand corner, the gear, hide all the stuff you don't like. You can keep World of Warships as historical based as you like it. But for everyone else that knows how to have fun, come on in. Water's fun.
Kami's our resident anime hater. I actually am not so much closet weeb as a real one, but
and ain't nothing wrong with that. I love anyone that loves anime, and I respect people that just don't like it. What I don't get is the people that I mentioned before that just hate it. It's like, whoa, well, back off. People just like an art form. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. We wouldn't do these anime collaborations if there weren't so many people that absolutely love it. It's like a feeding into a business market that makes the most sense, if that makes sense.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I don't hate people that like anime. I just don't want your body pillow next to me or anything like that. I'm cool with that. But I mean, from a business standpoint, I see, where you guys are coming from. It's a great collaboration for you guys, because there are a lot of people. I mean, I'm in so many Discords that's all it's about, is anime, and everybody has, avatars that are anime. That's fine, as long as, just keep it away from me.
So if we gave you a Torpillow body pillow, you'd be okay with that?
I don't want any body pillow.
I think he thought about it for a quick second. I heard that pause.
We did enjoy having the Torpillow when we came to visit the office last year. So, alrighty, well,
why isn't the Torpillow finally a thing? Like, everyone wants a Torpillow, and no one has stepped up and said, "Hey, we'll manufacture this thing and get it out for people."
I have that conversation with our business development team twice a month. So it is a continuing, ongoing conversation. So here's the concern, and I don't mind sharing it on the podcast. The Torpillow, if and when we manufacture, it won't be cheap. I'm talking like $50 to $75, maybe. Also, there's not that many people that are going to go ahead and buy it. I know. There's a lot of people on the forums that say, yeah, I'll totally buy it. There's a lot of people on Facebook that says, absolutely, yeah, I'll totally buy it. But how many of those people will actually buy it? So you got to do like the business metric of, let's pretend 5% of those people that actually said, yeah, I'll buy it, will actually buy it. And I think that's like a very fair metric to go off of. Being that only, between 5 to 10% of the actual player base goes to the forums, and then you have to take 5, we'll say reasonably % of the people that will actually drop $50 to $75 for a Torpillow. That's not that many. That's not that many sales of a Torpillow. And the reality is it worth our time to manufacture it? Maybe it is. And I haven't given up on it because I still believe like a lot of people will buy it. But it has, if I'm going to be 100% honest with you, it is a rough conversation to have with my business development guy to say, yeah, a lot of people will buy this 100% useless item. Don't worry, trust me on this. Because when I talk to our business development guy, it's the conversation of like, okay, I need to talk with this place and they're going to make a mouse for us, a World of Warships branded mouse. People like mice. People need mice. People use gaming mice all the time. That's fine. That's a much healthier conversation to have as opposed to, so I got this Torpillow body pillow that's going to now stop looking at me like that. Hear me out. And then he always still looks at me like, how many people are actually going to buy this? I don't know. 500, 2,000. I don't know. 18,000. I can't give you an exact answer until we actually start selling the thing. And
I think the price point would be an important part of that discussion. I mean, a $50 Torpillow, yeah, I would probably back away from that.
No, you would buy it.
But a $20 or $25 Torpillow, it would just take my damn money.
And that's just it. Like manufacturing a $20 Torpillow. I know people send me links from eBay all the time, but the links that people send me, this is coming from a secondhand Chinese manufacturer, and it takes like 2 months to get to you. Okay, those links I just like ignore. I'm talking about like, okay, find someone that actually like made a Torpillow in like the United States, or if you want to, you use Chinese labor, but you had an American distributor, because that's most likely how it might work. And that's where the price range jumps. And that's where I say, okay, now remember the fact that we're a business and they're a business. So there's obviously a business deal that's going to go on there. There's a little bit of handshaking, a little bit of like exchange of funds. And that's where the conversation becomes a little bit more real and people just kind of lose interest in it. So don't get me wrong. I still am a huge proponent of the Torpillow. And ever since I saw one physically in the hand when I became the assistant producer for World of Warships, I've been having that conversation endlessly with our business development team. We do have World of Warships merch, shop.wargaming.net, sorry, plug, where you can go ahead and buy some World of Warships items. The Torpillow isn't there yet, but don't give up. It might be there one day.
What if you did a bundle with the Torpillow, like a ship bundle, like an ultimate bundle, you know?
I'm not against that idea because we have done that with motherboards that we have sold before, gigabyte motherboards. So I'm not 100% opposed to that idea. But again, much like a motherboard going for like $200 to $500, that's much easier to say, yeah, and of course you get a free ship when you buy it. For the Torpillow, as I mentioned before, $50, $75. What does the Torpillow do? It sits there and it looks kind of funny. It comes down to how far is this joke going to go? You know what I mean?
That's fair enough. The Pigeon is just destroying the dreams of the World of Warships player base. That's all.
I'm trying not to, but it's my job.
Well, we really appreciate having you on the show, Pigeon. It's been great. Did you want to give a shout out before we finish up?
Sure. The wiki editor team, you guys are great. As I've said before, they do the Lord's work. They're constantly working in the background, in the shadows, making sure the content of the wiki, the World of Warships wiki, is consistently updated. C-Raptor in particular, the wiki editor leader, whips them into shape, makes sure that people like Personator stay on track, even though he spams my wiki channel with memes of ill repute constantly. Little White Mouse does not get enough appreciation. I know everyone says that she gets a lot of appreciation. You really don't know what she's doing in the background. Some of those reviews take like 20 hours to make, and I personally appreciate that because I don't think I've ever dedicated that much time to any one particular video game in my life ever. Radar X, our new senior community manager, is just hit the ground running and just made his Trogdor symbol known that he is not to be messed with and that the community has to go ahead and keep down, be more positive, be more constructive. If you want to be negative, fine, but you could be negative in like a different space, just not on our forums or in our control channels. I think that's really good. And finally, Boyarsky. Boyarsky is like a constant joke that the producers of our company work pretty hard, but Boyarsky has been here sometimes pulling like 15-hour days. He is doing so much things in the background, so he definitely gets a huge shout out from me. And, he's my boss, so I almost have to.
Fair enough. And I know, Kami, you are streaming for King of the Seas this weekend, correct?
Yes, I will be with No Zoop. We are doing the knockout stage on the 27th, and it starts at noon Pacific time. I don't know all the other conversions. I put it on Twitter. I mean, it has a bunch of different times and everything, but it should be fun. We got some pretty good games that we're going to go over. Hopefully they live up to the hype and it'll be a lot of fun. These teams that will be playing, they're playing for the right to play the EU teams. So that's a thing. And some of the EU teams everybody knows are very good. And, the NA teams want to prove that, they belong in the same room with them. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, though. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be great. I had almost forgotten that last weekend was King of the Seas, and all of a sudden my channel started getting spammed by all the King of the Seas stuff. I was like, whoa, oh yeah. So, but yeah, it was cool having those guys on the show last weekend and, just talking to them about kind of what the metas are. So you'll have to tell us next week just what your thoughts are on how the meta is kind of progressing in King of the Seas through your streamed matches, Kami.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely go over, how it goes. And I know that the group stage is going to be done this weekend. And then next weekend, I believe, is the semis and finals. I'm not entirely sure on that. I only know about this weekend, but it'll definitely be fun. I mean, we had the King of the Sea guys on here, and they were very hyped about it. So I haven't looked at the EU bracket yet, so I can't really tell you how they did. Who's the favorite over there. We all know the named clans and everything like that. So, but there'll always be surprises. There's always surprises every tournament. So I'm hoping that we'll have some here and we'll be able to announce, some up and coming teams and some teams that, may not be known, but have a lot of good players. So it's a chance for them to shine.
For sure. I'm looking forward to it. Well, that's it for this week, folks. Remember, starting today, podcast episodes will be released on YouTube with listener gameplay as backdrop. I did not receive any listener gameplay from people this week, so you guys should email us at warshipspodcast@gmail.com so you get to see my gameplay that's recorded this week along with this episode. Just send us the email with the replay, screenshots of the end battle screen, and a brief summary of what happened in the game and why we should include it. As always, follow us on Facebook and Twitter for updates between podcasts. We, of course, want to thank our amazing Patreon backers. If you're interested in supporting us, please consider becoming a backer yourself. Take care, everyone, and we will see you next week.